Attorney General Loretta Lynch has just announced that the Justice Department is closing the Clinton email case with no charges filed. Now, here's Donald Trump last night, just hours after the FBI director made his big announcement recommending that outcome.
Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, right? He was a bad guy, really bad guy. But you know what he did well? He killed terrorists. He did that so good. They didn't read him the rights. They didn't talk. They were a terrorist. It was over. Today, Iraq is Harvard for terrorism. You want to be a terrorist, you go to Iraq. It's like Harvard, okay?
Now, this isn't the first time Trump has made that comment. He did during the primary process, but this came as the Clinton news was dominating the news cycle. But what Trump said right there about Saddam Hussein trumped that. And this was one big missed opportunity for Trump just this week. The other one happened over the weekend, and that's when Trump, of course, retweeted the Star of David tweet. It was widely considered as anti-Semitic. So instead of everyone talking about Hillary Clinton's meeting with the FBI, they were talking about this instead. Now, we'll get into this. I know, Congressman, you want to talk about what Trump said about Saddam Hussein.
Well, could you imagine if somebody saying, you know, Hitler was really bad, but he was a great dancer? I mean, why do you talk about Saddam Hussein in any sense in a positive way? He committed mass genocide on his own people, killing up to 500,000 of his own Iraqi citizens, many with chemical weapons, and he invaded another country. He's no good guy. So what presidential candidate ever before extols the virtues of a murderous, genocidal dictator? Only Donald Trump.
And Jeannie, these are the kinds of comments that we're getting all across the media landscape after Trump said that last night. But there's an old maxim or axiom or whatever, like never interrupt your opponent when they're in the process of hurting themselves. Hillary Clinton's had 2 bad news cycles in a row, and each time Trump keeps getting in the way of it. Does nobody stop him from doing this? Is he just not sense the way this is working?
Yeah, I don't think anybody can stop him from doing it. He takes his own advice, he takes his own counsel, and that's been the problem with the campaign throughout. For all the good things he's brought to the campaign for himself, you know, he has had a knack for knowing where the base of the Republican Party stands and being able to speak to that base. He also has this problem that he has never run a national campaign or any campaign. He doesn't know how this operates. I think the tweet is a very good example. In a national campaign or even a local campaign, you have about 10 people looking at these tweets before they go out. They don't just go out from one person. And in this campaign, they don't have 10 people to speak of who can look at these tweets. So he's going to continue to have these problems until and unless he begins to take the advice of his campaign managers and advisors and the campaign beefs up its staff. They haven't done either of those things yet to the extent they need to do.
Dominic, we were talking about the tweet last night, and you said Trump just wants to be in the news cycle. There's no such thing as bad press, at least in Donald Trump's mind.
Bad press.
But there
and
is,
it worked for him.
But there is when he's stepping in front of Hillary Clinton's bad press.
I agree with you. Listen, his game, his con, to a degree, that he's playing on the American people, has it been successful thus far? Of course it has. Did it get rid of all the other Republican candidates? Of course it has. So he will say the most outrageous thing, whatever comes to his little mind. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean his little old mind.
No, the good little mind.
The good little mind. And he'll just put it out there. And you got to understand, he will say it, will this get me a headline? So the professor is as always, is 1,000% correct. Donald Trump didn't just put that together and hit send to put it on Twitter. His people came up with that idea. Why? For the reason why we're talking about it right now.
Well, I'll say one other thing about the anti-Semitic symbol on there. It was a picture of $100 bills and saying that with the Star of David, that's why Hillary was corrupt, because she was corrupted by them. Now that imagery came from anti-Semitic websites that of Trump's supporters directly. He then allowed that imagery to be put on his tweet, and he sent it out. So either he doesn't know who's sending out these anti-Semitic tweets, he doesn't realize they're anti-Semitic, which would be pretty hard to believe, or he doesn't care. Either way,
or he's conning the public.
Either way, it doesn't demonstrate the integrity, the ability of a president of all the people of this country, where we have freedom of religion and we're tolerant and we're supposed to get along together, it doesn't speak well for his candidacy.
Let me give you an example. I know for a fact that Donald Trump has many African American friends, high profile, low profile. When he went out there, about a month ago and said, "Where's my African American?" You don't think he knew what he was saying? You don't think that he realized, you don't think he knew that would be the lead on every newscast that night? He knew.
Well, you know, presidents of the United States, as the leader of the free world, the greatest country on the face of the earth, need to be careful with their language.
Agreed.
It's very important. Stock markets go up and down. Militaries respond, ours and other militaries of our enemies, respond to what a president says. So to have someone who is either so careless with their language or tries to motivate people to get angry, to press an emotional button, damn the consequences, that's not a good prescription for President of the United States.
It also somewhat legitimizes some of these, not necessarily the points of view, but the freedom to express those points of view. I mean, to me, this provides cover for anti-Semites or racists or xenophobes to come out and say things that are even more distasteful than what Trump has been saying in the public arena. And I wonder if that's not a larger societal ill that might come as a result of all this.
The answer is yes. It sure
But
can.
it's not accidental. I mean, you look at Ronald Reagan's 1980 campaign, that's exactly what they did. Campaigns do that because it's a winning strategy. I mean, I don't believe for a second Donald Trump is anti-Semitic or anti-black or anti-women. He's doing this because he has his thumb on the pulse of this base. And to get them out, the same Southern strategy that worked under Lee Atwater is going to work potentially for him today.
I get that, but
that's what's happening.
It does give voice, I think, to some of those more dangerous.
Of course, and they're saying that, but that's true, and they're saying they don't care.
And by the way, I read a lot about Ronald Reagan. Donald Trump is no Ronald Reagan.
The good one. It's true. But the strategy is very, very similar to the Southern
It is
strategy
similar,
of
but they're
Lee
different
Atwater.
candidates. We'll talk
Yeah.
more.
I got to take a break. Up next, Bridgegate isn't over. After all this time, there might be some new evidence that uncovers what Chris Christie knew or didn't know about the lane closures. We're off to Jersey next.